Hello, my loves. It's Glenda the Grieving Nomad. As a black woman of a certain age, I'm not embarrassed to say in the past I have benefited from the use of affirmative action. As a veteran, likewise, I in the past benefited from affirmative action. Despite the inaccurate belief of many YT peoples, affirmative action and diversity, equity, and inclusion does not place unqualified candidates in positions they otherwise would not have been considered for in the workforce or educational system. On the contrary, the individual who benefits from those programs are qualified, but otherwise, due to YT supremacy, would have been overlooked, excluded, or discarded due to their race. This is Domino. Affirmative action refers to policies and programs that are designed to actively promote equal opportunity in the workplace. And in the past, educational settings for all people, regardless of their race, gender, national origin, sexual orientation, or other factors. I'm sorry. Affirmative action policies originated in the 1960s after it became clear that anti-discrimination laws alone weren't enough to counter past discrimination against historically discriminated against and disadvantaged groups. The first mention of affirmative action was in 1961. President John F. Kennedy's Executive Order 10925, which required the government contractors to take affirmative action to ensure that applicants are given the opportunity to equal employment and that employees are fairly treated without regard to their race, creed, color, or national origin. 4 years later, President Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which aimed to end discrimination in various spheres of American life. Title VII of the Act specifically addresses equal employment opportunity. Johnson then followed with his Executive Order 11246, requiring government employers to take affirmative action to hire without regard to race, religion, and national origin, and put cabinet-level authority under the Secretary of Labor behind implementing its affirmative action and non-discrimination provisions. The landmark order has been amended over the years. Gender was added in 1967, people with disabilities in subsequent years, and in 2014, sexual orientation and gender identity were included. DEI is based on affirmative action, but is specifically in the workplace. The order of benefits by category? Well, the beneficiaries start out as YT women, Asians, Hispanics, persons with disabilities, LGBTQ persons, veterans, non-American blacks, and finally, Black Americans. The group Affirmative Action was originally designed to help Black Americans receive the least benefits from the program, but are nearly always believed to be unqualified affirmative action hires. Was I an affirmative action hire? Absolutely yes, without a doubt. And like so many other people of color, I was an affirmative action hire throughout my entire professional career. I was highly qualified to fight, despite never being treated as if I was. And while I had to test into the positions that I had, in the military, I tested 96% out of 100 correct. And as a civil servant, I took a civil service test. I was number 5 out of 150, leaving evidence of my qualifications. And that evidence means nothing to the majority of Americans. Recent conversations on affirmative action and diversity, equity, and inclusion have brought up lies of the unqualified. Charlie Kirk said, quote, "If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified," unquote. Candace Owens, who regularly jumps on the YT supremacy bandwagon despite being black, not only said she's terrified of female pilots, but she also said, quote, I remarked that now when I am even watching a commercial, if I see a commercial and I see a black person, a Hispanic person, an Asian person, my thought process is, did they just get this because of DEI? I no longer think the person is qualified, end quote. In truth, she likely never thought they were qualified in the first place due to her twisted reverse racism. As a black female who grew up in the 1960s and 1970s, I both knew and know literally hundreds of affirmative action hires and dozens upon dozens more who fall under DEI. In my experience, the people who fall into those categories not only are qualified, many are overqualified. I have known many people, black, Asian, and Hispanic, who were told they were not hired because they were overqualified. I can't count the people who have tried after a phone interview to go to their in-person interview only to find out that, ooh, we just filled that position right before you got here. Yeah, right. Yet I've personally known several YT men, totally 100% unqualified for the positions that they held and received due to political clout and nepotism. And the fact that a student who is a person of color could excel in college when competing against YT students who were exposed to educational resources that were denied that child of color is nothing short of a miracle that should be given extra consideration. Those students are by no means unqualified, but in reality are likely more qualified. Otherwise, they would never have been able to come within striking distance of those YT students who were given a superior education, while when they take those ACT and SAT tests, they're not given extra points for being black. They're not given extra points for being any other minority. So if they can keep up with those YT students, they should be given priority. And the same process takes place in the interview room. No employer anywhere on this planet is going to hire an unqualified person of color. The inability to adequately perform the job would have dire consequences, implications, and repercussions that would affect the overall job performance of every employee working with that person, as well as the financial bottom line, which we all realize is far more important than any appearance of equitable hiring, despite not having the same effect when the person is YT. Yet 160 years after the end of slavery, descendants of the enslaved are still considered unqualified to do anything other than pick cotton for free. And by the way, the Tuskegee Airmen were the most sought-after flight support team by World War II veterans that were entering enemy territory, and they never lost one pilot, not one. And in addition, I did a search on Google. You can do one too. There have been 0 goose egg plane crashes with black pilots or black co-pilots. Over 60 years ago, Dr. Martin Luther King dreamt of a United States which would judge his children by the content of their character rather than the color of their skin. That dream is no closer to being a reality today than it was 57 years ago when he dreamt that dream. Please like, subscribe, and follow to keep up with my posts. And share if you want someone else to know this information. I love you guys. Peace.